end of the day, good evening, good afternoon. I'm Hallie Vandergeg, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Baltimore Water Alliance. And I am so proud to be able to introduce Congressman Cummings today. Congressman, we know that this is a difficult day, and our thoughts are with you and members of the congressional staff and the families. Congressman Cummings has dedicated his life of service to uplifting and empowering the people he is sworn to represent. He began his career of public service in the Maryland House of Delegates and was the first African American to serve as Speaker Pro Tem. He was in the House for 16 years, and since 1996, Congressman Cummings has proudly represented Maryland's 7th District, where I'm proud to call home. Congressman Cummings currently serves as the ranking member of the Committee of Oversight and Government Reform. As the main investigative committee in the House of Representatives and Oversight Reform, he has jurisdiction to investigate any federal program or any matter with federal policy implications. In 2011, we're certainly glad that that's where you'll be. As the committee's ranking member, Congressman Cummings fights to hold the presidential administration to a high standard of excellence, works to ensure efficiency and effectiveness in the government of the United States. Congressman Cummings is also a senior member of the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. Perhaps more importantly is a common value that we all hold dear. Congressman Cummings often says that children are the living message we send into the future that we never see. Over the years, I've been privileged in Baltimore to meet with the congressman on a number of issues, and whether we're talking about tree canopy and reducing asthma in the inner city, a summer youth program to put teens to work watering trees and maintaining rain gardens, that's the core value that we both come back to. So it's for that reason that I am proud to introduce Congressman Cummings to talk about his work on clean water. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Come on, we can do better than that. Good evening, everyone. It is certainly my honor and my privilege to be here. And I want to thank you, Hallie, for your very kind introduction. I first want to pay tribute to Congresswoman Giffords, who was my seatmate. As a matter of fact, in the 110th Congress, we sat next to each other for 2 years. And many, many hours of conversation. And as I know all of you feel the pain and shock with regard to what happened, it is, I gotta tell you, it has shaken all of us. And certainly our prayers go out to Congresswoman Giffords and to the families of the victims and the families of those who sadly passed away. And, you know, sometimes when things like this happen, you have a chance to reflect and put it all in some type of context. And so often we forget what her brother-in-law said from space today. I don't know, well, I guess you all been so busy in this conference, but you'll hear it tonight when you look at the news. And I just heard pieces of it, but what he said was, he said, I'm up here in space, and I see from a great distance the beautiful world. And he said, if people could only realize how interconnected we are on this earth, and that we should never do anything to bring harm to anyone, for we are all a part of the same universe. And perhaps that statement could be stretched a bit to talk about taking care of the environment that we have been given. The one that existed on the day that we were born. The one that was there many, many years ago when people could go fishing and not have to worry about fish coming up with 3 eyes and male and female organs. Perhaps go back to a day to take care of the environment, which would allow us to breathe clean air and not have to worry about things that I now did not realize how significant they were. Years ago when I worked at Bethlehem Steel, I did not realize that at the end of the day, when I would blow my nose and black stuff would come out, that I was breathing chemicals, things that probably will shorten my life. And so when people say go back to the day, we need to go back to the day when people truly cherish their environment, where they made sure that there was not one piece of paper thrown into the ocean, where they made sure that no matter what the profits might be, that they would not dump pollutants into our waters so that they might make more profit. The day when farmers said to themselves, I'm going to work hand in hand with the environmentalists. I know we can do this. I know that we can do this together. We need to get back to that day. And so I have come by here, first of all, to thank you for what you do every day. You get up and you have a vision. You have a vision of America, a vision for what America should be. Ladies and gentlemen, I am tired of us mourning what could be, what could have been. We must realize that we have the power to make it what we want to make it. And that's what we must be all about, and that's why I have come, first of all, to thank you. Thank you for caring. And so it is an honor to join you and the Chesapeake Bay Watershed Coalition for your second Choose Clean Water Conference. As a representative of the Maryland 7th Congressional District, I was proud to have worked closely with Maryland Senator Ben Cardin during the last Congress to lead the effort to reauthorize the Chesapeake Bay program and to instill innovative new approaches into the program that will finally lead to the true restoration of the Chesapeake Bay. Unfortunately, we were unable to enact that legislation during the last Congress. And I must report, and I do not believe the prospects are favorable for the passage of such legislation in the new Congress that began last week. As I'm sure you know, the new Republican majority does not support increased environmental regulation. And many of the interests that aligned against the Bay Bill will have an even stronger position in the new Congress. Senator Cardin and I are still discussing what form the Bay Bill should take in the 112th Congress, and we certainly invite your input into these discussions. Fortunately, however, a number of other processes are already underway that will expand and strengthen the effort to clean up the Chesapeake Bay. As you know, President Obama issued an executive order to guide a renewed and reinvigorated federal cleanup effort shortly after taking office. Further, on December 29, 2010, the long-awaited total maximum daily loads were issued for the Bay, and the watershed states are now developing their watershed implementation plans. The TMDs are tough, but they are realistic about the reductions in pollution we need throughout the 64,000 square mile watershed to restore the Bay's health. Now it is critical that the states perfect their WIPs and implement them as planned. That said, it is also critical that the TMDL requirements be enforced and that the EPA be fair but resilient. We have seen that voluntary agreements, ladies and gentlemen, and good intentions are simply inadequate to achieve our restoration objectives. And I fear that if the TMDL process is not effectively overseen, even this effort will fail to achieve true restoration. Effective implementation of the WIPs now requires that residents of all the watershed states act in a Bay conscious manner and take the necessary steps, many of which may be easier than they imagine, to reduce pollution. I know that you all will support the public information efforts that are essential to this process. Effective implementation is also going to require funding. That is certainly going to be a challenge, given the deficits many of the Bay states are facing. However, we must work together to ensure that states continue to prioritize the Bay and to ensure that they have the resources necessary to enable their WIPs to succeed. You all can help in this effort by identifying those measures and programs that are most effective and working to ensure that they are continued. Not only continued, but expanded and replicated. Now, as you know, at the federal level, the Bay bill that Senator Cardin and I introduced would have authorized more than $5 billion in expenditures to help support the TMLD process, including providing $1.5 billion to support initiatives intended to control stormwater runoff and $500 million for each of the fiscal years 2010 through 2015 to support the Section 319 programs that help farmers implement non-point source management initiatives. Unfortunately, as we face an incoming Republican leadership in the House that has made cutting the budget their #1 priority, I think it will be difficult to secure any new authorizations of federal funding for the Bay. In fact, we must play an agile defense to protect and even those authorizations and appropriations for Bay-related initiatives that are currently in place. I hate to tell you that. We must operate as if every program is under threat and under attack, starting with the funding needed to implement the health care reform legislation and including every environmental program. We must also begin to gear up for the next Farm Bill reauthorization, and here too, you have a critical role to play. You must help us ensure that the limited resources that will be available are targeted to conservation efforts rather than subsidies for multi-million-dollar agribusiness concerns. And this is a time for us to be vigilant. I just read over letters that the chairman of my committee, Government Reform and Oversight, has sent out to the business community. And we are now beginning to get the responses. And I have urged him to make sure that he publish not only the letters, but the responses on our website. And I am begging you, and we'll keep you abreast of when they go up, because when you begin to read what business wants to get rid of regulation-wise, it'll sicken you. And so we have to be up for this fight, and it is a very serious fight. And we're fighting for our environment. We're fighting not just for ourselves, but for generations yet unborn. You must also help us push back against the Republicans who want to serve the interests of big corporations rather than the American people. And so they're getting these responses back, but these folks are targeting consumer protections, and they are targeting regulations that protect food safety and they want to do things that will do away with a lot of the protection that we have with regard to consumer goods. And it's very painful to me as I read these letters, because so often when we complain about the effort to get rid of these regulations, we're called some flaming liberals. And that's so sad that in this country, where we have built all kinds of infrastructures to protect the American people, and when an effort is made to make sure that those regulations are strong, and not only strong, but that they are enforced, that there would be those who would want to take them away. We have to have not only a defense, but we have to have an offensive defense, and we have to be proactive. We cannot get away from our game. It's like a basketball game. It's like a basketball game. Listen to me. It's like a basketball game. So many people, when you listen to them talk about a basketball game and everything's going rough, the commentator will say, yeah, it looks like they've gotten away from their game. They seem to be losing. They've gotten away from their game. They've been thrown off. They've been distracted. But at some point, they say they need to get back to the game plan. So often what happens is that we are blinded by what we see. We are blinded by what we see. And if you think about your lives, as I think about my life all the time, so often things look so bleak. You've been there, and you cannot imagine how you're going to get through it. But some kind of way, when the dust settles, you have won, but you must stay on your game. You must stay on your game. We do not have time. We do not have time for pity parties. Do not become a member of the PPP, the pity party professionals. We don't have time for that. I tell my staff, you can go around and complaining about what we are dealing with. I tell them, I said, don't waste time complaining about what your opposition is. That's energy you could spend planning how to deal with them. Do not waste your energy. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get all so excited, but it's just that stand on your game thing. They just got me excited. And so they're targeting rules that protect workers. And be sure that they will target the rules that protect our environment. We must stand together against this. As the incoming ranking member of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, I can promise you that I will fight them with everything I've got. However, I will need your help. I need your help, and I need it badly. As the other side will have more staff and more resources than we will have, and most troubling of all, they will have the subpoena power. And the interesting thing is they will have 2 times the number of staff that we do because they're in the majority. This is going to be a tough fight, but it is a fight that I'm spending every hour of every day waging. I did not ask for this fight. The fight came to me. And there's a moment in our lives, ladies and gentlemen, where the fight comes to us. All of us have been there. It may have been somebody who got sick in your family and you were able to muster certain strengths that you never thought you would be able to muster. It may be the death of a loved one that caused you to get up out of your bed the next day and just put your clothes on and get back out there and continue on with your life. It may have been something that was so devastating and so hurting, so hurtful, that you could not imagine yourself forging ahead. But those are the times that we have to dust ourselves off and get back up. And we do it every day as human beings. We do it. There are always going to be interruptions in life. There are always going to be problems in life. The question is not whether there will be interruptions, not whether there will be problems. The question is will we dust ourselves off and get back up? That's what it's about. And so I'm not my mother, who only had a 2nd grade education. So often she would do days work, domestic work. And she'd get up at 5:30 in the morning. And she would come home sometimes at 7, 8 o'clock at night. She would get the early bus. the early bus, and then she'd get the late bus to go home. But late in the midnight hour, so often she would sit there, soaking her feet in Epsom salt at around 12 o'clock at night. And she would sing an old Negro spiritual. She would say, I ain't feel no ways tired. Because she realized that there was so much at stake. She realized that she had 7 children that she had to lift up, that she had to make sure that they were educated, that she had to make sure that they were able to make their contributions to this world. And so every time I get paid, I take my mama some money. Why? Because she had a vision for me, and she did not become blinded by what she saw. She did not become blinded by the problems in life, but she became invigorated and made it her business to fight on, and that's what we must do. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as I close, I remind you that much work remains to be done to restore the Bay. This is highlighted by the findings of the Bay Foundation's 2010 State of the Bay report, just released on January 5th. The report indicates that while conditions in the Bay are improving, the Bay's overall health remains critical. It is therefore essential that the TMDL process get off to a fast, efficient, and effective start. And you have the responsibility of ensuring that everyone, including every state and the EPA, does their part to help achieve our goal of restoring the Bay. And so I come here not only to thank you for what you're doing, but as I told my staff, my new staff for the committee, all of whom took at least a 5% pay cut. And I looked them in the eyes and I said, we're a small army. I said, but we will win this fight. I said, because right is on our side. And I told them, I said, although you're underpaid, and although you're going to get discouraged at times, and although many times you're going to feel like you're little David going against Goliath, you must remember that right is on your side. And I told them, as I tell you, I said, you are the last line of defense. You and you and you and you and you and you are the last line of defense. You are the last line of defense. I don't care what job you're in, where you are, what state you're in, you're in the last line of defense, because there are those who would want to take apart all the good work that we have done. And so I told them that every day when they get up, I wanted them to find, first of all, I wanted them to go to the Salvation Army. And I wanted them to find a helmet. I wanted them to find a helmet. I told them I'd pay for it. And I want them to set that helmet on their desk, a military helmet. And I told them that every time you come in to the office, I want you to look at that helmet and realize that you have got to fight. I said, but I want you to realize that you're not fighting for yourself because it's bigger than you. This is so much bigger than you. This is about lifting up generations yet unborn. And so it is our duty. I say to you, pick up your helmet. Pick up your helmet, put it on your desk. Matter of fact, try it on sometimes. Look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm in the Army. May God bless you. May God bless your mission. And may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
It was definitely an honor to have Congressman Cummings here. So thank you for being here, and everyone, please enjoy the reception.